It's great to be back. I was here for the first time 2 years ago, and I talked about HOLOGATE for the first time in public ever. And that was just right after we kind of came out of stealth and put our product in the first place here in Munich. And so yeah, it's exciting to be back, and a lot of things have happened in the meantime. And it's not just theory anymore. So there's a lot of things that we can now report that are exciting. So my name's Leif Petersen, and I'm CEO of HOLOGATE. And so if you're on LinkedIn, please connect. I'm very active there, and I like to also then basically communicate with these channels if you like. So our background is coming from media production, and we've done a lot of different projects for a lot of different clients in various industries, a lot of automotive things and so forth, like for high-end commercials and feature films and so forth. And so I've been introduced to VR in the 90s. In 1993, I played in a virtual reality system, and since then I always loved VR and I always wanted to work in this space, and I'm super happy that we're finally here and we can actually work in these immersive worlds. So when we talk about location-based entertainment, sometimes people don't really know what it is or what it is about, and sometimes I heard people thought it was like location-based services or something like this. So location-based entertainment is basically entertainment in locations. And so the locations are entertainment locations, as like all of these sort of things that you can see here on this slide. And in these locations we have various forms of entertainment that everybody knows, from basically karting, trampoline, and cinemas, and all these sort of things. And that is also where we are positioning our systems. And so our platforms, they are turnkey. That means so software and hardware work very much together. And it's not just a software solution, so it's a full system, and we're actually just launching our second product here, so that's why we're saying platforms. And so the platforms are built so that they make perfect sense for location-based entertainment, so it makes sense for operators, and basically we're ticking all their boxes of what they really want, so that a system like this can be successful in these locations. So the most like when we started this, our vision was that if we do anything in VR, it has to be social. So basically, people have to experience VR together, because at the end, otherwise it's very isolating. So this is about bringing your friends and family and getting together and experiencing things that otherwise you would never be able to experience. And so basically, the social factor of these systems was really important for us, and that's why also we have an open design, and it's a 4-player system, and you can play together. And we have this at like lots of locations, and it's always like people gather around the system. So they're of course it's also built for spectators, so that you can see what's happening inside, and so it's a social experience as well. And so that's just that was our first product that we launched 2 years ago. It's the HOLOGATE Arena. And it's a 5x5 meter system, so it kind of fits everywhere. And it's a 4-player system, and it's fully automated, and it's run by a touchscreen display. So if you are an operator, you don't need to know anything basically about VR or the technology or how it works. So we're taking fully care of everything from back to end. So we're creating our own games for the platform that are specifically made for this sort of use. Plus, we're also going to the very end, where it's like all the support and all the maintenance and all of that of all these stations now. And so we've won a lot of awards over the time, so some of the most prestigious awards in the space. And we're very happy that we actually got to this point. And I still can't really believe that we're there. And so now what that means is our network is now more than 300 locations, and by mid-November, we're going to hit more than 5 million players. Like in summer, we have a lot of systems in the United States, and you can see, so we have all the data from the systems, right? And so we can see all the analytics and what's happening and what they're playing, what they're doing, and what times of day they're using it, and what days and of the week and so forth. And so in summer it's very busy, right? So this is this holiday season, especially in the United States. Everybody goes to entertainment centers and they all play. So we had almost 500,000 people play in July, right? So it's a lot of people on VR. And if we ask, so we have some data about who are these people, right? And a lot of these people are actually still first-time users. So it's a lot of people that we're just introducing to VR, and you can see it all over social media and everywhere. And if you talk to these people, they're all thrilled about what they can do. And still, we're living in a small bubble, right? Even though we're now in this third wave of VR, we're kind of a few years in, but still the bubble is small, right? And so consumer adoption is slow. And so there's millions of people out there that don't know anything about this and if this is great or not. And still, I bet you have, shown a lot of your friends about VR and all of that. And the same thing is happening here. So we're just very happy that we can basically impact so many people and show VR to so many people. There's some audio on that. I don't know if you can turn it up. Otherwise, I can turn on my audio. Yeah, this is just to give you a little bit of an impression of what our system here currently looks like and what it feels like when people are playing. Yeah, we have one on the show floor here, so if you want to experience this, please head over and have a try. You can only talk so much about VR. At the end, it's experiencing it, right? So you have to experience it, otherwise you don't know. And so please walk over and try it for yourself. And so by the end of the year, we'll have 14 different games on the platform, and there's 7 that we produced ourselves and 7 that are from third-party developers. And we're publishing games now because the network is still growing every day or like every month. And so it's the world's largest platform at the moment. And so we're very happy to get to that stage where we can actually publish games now and also make it more accessible. Now this is something new. And so this is something we just announced a few weeks ago. This is our second system, and it's based on a motion simulator. And so motion simulators at the moment, most of them have a big issue with motion sickness, so that you get sick when you're doing it. It's not like this with this one, so it's fully tuned so that you don't get sick, and it's super fun, and I'm really, really thrilled and excited about having this and doing this. And so the first ones are going to appear at IAPA. It's a show in Orlando, and so it's going to go on the show floor in about 5 weeks, I think. And so we already sold a few of them, and we're really, really happy about basically what's happening here. So this is a slide which I thought was interesting because I showed this 2 years ago, and of course no one believed me. And so actually now the numbers, this is the exact same slide. So I think you can find it on YouTube still. And so I said, okay, we can probably per year do these numbers, and they're accurate. And so we now got to the stage where we have this scale. And so of course I hope that we can basically get to an even bigger scale and basically bring all these experiences to a lot of people in the world. And so this is a slide I think I showed as well, or similar. And so of course there's predictions for the market, right? So are these true? Who knows, right? I don't know how they make these predictions. I'm always very curious. But I think that just from experience and seeing the growth, I think that there is something happening here. And at the end, like, is it really these numbers? Is it other numbers? But you can see it on other factors, like if you just look on the entertainment market, how many companies are now producing systems, and of course they're also trying to copy systems that are on the market like ours because they're successful. And so I think the market is growing, and it is happening, and it's not going to go away. In the 90s it kind of went away, but the systems weren't there and the technology wasn't there, but now it is, so it's not going to go away, it's just going to grow. There's no question. And so what I really wanted to talk about today is something different. So now I talked a little bit about HOLOGATE and what we're doing, but I wanted to talk a little bit about basically, I think that the most successful things that you can do in VR is going to be, in my opinion, in the entertainment and also in the education sphere, right? And I think this is really important for enterprises. So I think that if you want to do anything, I think that educational things in enterprise is where it's going to go, right? And so if you look at gaming, I think gaming produces fun, right? I mean, everybody agrees on that. And educational, things, they're all about learning, right? So, and I think VR is perfect for learning. So because it's learning as you're doing, like you can't learn in any other way. And so if you think about that, so when you look at entertainment and education, right, of course, we have edutainment, which is in the middle ground of this, right? So it's a merger, and I think that's why it's really important for both sides. So it's like, okay, so where does entertainment meet education? And I think the talks before already talked a little bit about this. And so then you have things where you go into, okay, you have serious games, right? And you have gamification. So this is where basically both sides converge. And I think, especially if you think about VR, it's very closely related to games, and I think that's why it's also important to understand, if you work in the educational sphere, that gamification has to be a part. Oh, there's a spelling mistake, oops. Well, you know what I mean. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about is why is that, and what does that mean to us, right? So our brain is a pattern matching machine, essentially, right? So everybody knows we can do like facial recognition, like nothing else, right? It's insane. Like we even see faces on Mars if there are no faces on Mars, and like these sort of things, right? So we know this, right? But what does that mean? So I think that if you think about what we're doing, right, we can see everything as patterns. So and like let's say I just want to make a few examples here. So if you think about music, right, music is highly mathematical, and so if it's not interesting enough, it's just a signal. It's a sinus curve or something. So no one's interested in that. And if it gets too complicated, it's just noise, so we don't understand. And then there's a middle ground, like everybody likes pop music, but jazz music not so much, because it's more complicated, right? So you have to get more into it, and that's just music. And so if you think about stories, it's similar. So you have a picture book, which, you know, it's easy for kids. And then we grow up, and everybody loves films, and kids watch films over and over again. They want to understand the pattern behind it. And we all understand the pattern, and essentially most Hollywood film is a thing called hero's journey, and you can read up about that. So most films work the same. So I have a big background in film, and I studied film, and you can see the patterns, how these films are basically being produced. And then you can look at even stuff that's more complicated and not so accessible, like improv theater, and there's methods as well, like a Herald, for example, which is a highly organized improv theater, right? So this is about complexity. Now, when you think about games, it's actually very similar. So you have simple games like tic-tac-toe, and you have stuff like Connect 4. And this is when, you know, kids grow up, they go through these stages, and I have a daughter that's 5 years old, and I can see how all of that happens, right? And then it gets more complicated, like chess. So you can think about the digital realm, where you have stuff like Dota 2, which is highly complicated, way more complicated than chess. And most people don't understand what's going on, and are troubled about what is eSports and what is going on there. I don't understand anything. It's way more complicated than chess, right? So it's about skill level, really. And so this is my daughter, and she loves Connect 4 at the moment, which I found really interesting. Is she also loves to play the game, but she also likes to create patterns on it, right? And I had to take a photo of this pattern because she wants to reproduce it, right? And so she loves to make this. It's about, this is what we are about, right? It's about understanding patterns. And so now if you think about it, how we basically take in these patterns, it's about you learn about patterns, and you want to master them, and you want to store them, right? And you get positive feedback along the way. And so now when you think about it, so if you think about products, at the end, it's about, you've read maybe about habit forming products, and we have things like Facebook and these sort of things which make us highly addicted. And of course, like games that are very successful make you addicted in some sort of way, right? This can be bad, good or bad, like this is, there's no judgment here, but it's about basically at the end, it's about forming habits. And I think it's because evolutionary, we're looking for basically, what is the winning strategy, right? So how do we actually make sense of the world, and how can we learn it, right? And now the interesting thing for games and anything that is in regards to learning is you're on a journey where people get excited about stuff, and then it gets boring, right? And then you will disregard your game or whatever you played because it's just simply boring. You're not interested anymore. And then once you get further, you might create that habit, and then people might get addicted to these things and just get back and continuously doing these things, right? And that's, of course, interesting when you build a product. Now, how do you fight the boring? So this is just a few things. So you need to introduce variation, right? So maybe more content or competition or smart design, right? And so I just wanted to just show one thing that I think is smart design. So this is Nolan Bushnell. He's the founder of Atari and various other companies, many. And so you can go onto Wikipedia and you can find Bushnell's law, and I really like this one. And actually we designed our games before I even know that this thing existed. And so it's about the best games are easy to learn and hard to master. That's what he used to say, and this is what Atari and all the machines kind of worked along, and this is still valid today, I think, and it's also kind of something that we're trying to do, and especially like also the speakers before, they said the same thing. So it has to be easy, it has to be accessible, so people have to understand. And VR is highly complicated, and they're already thrilled just putting on a VR headset if it's new. So now, once I will get into heaven, hopefully, will I meet God and say, did I waste my life making video games? And he's probably going to respond, no, thousands of people played your games every day. You wasted thousands of life by making video games. I just like that. I saw that the other day, and I kind of thought it applied, right? So do we really? So the question is, do we really? Because if we look back at the pattern, right? So find pattern, master pattern, store pattern, and we get positive feedback. Now, this is learning, right? This is learning. And so this is about games. So this is basically game design. So now the question is, what is the positive feedback? And this is where we get back to the start, right? What is it called? It's called fun, right? So in games, learning equals fun. This is game making. This is game making. So I wish it was always like that. I wish it would be like that in school and everybody else. But essentially, that's what is at play, and that works in games, right? And this is why people actually play. If you want to take a picture of that. Okay. So games I do see as an opportunity to acquire skills, and some of these skills are just outdated, right? Hunting and gathering and these sort of things, which is very popular in games. If you look at first-person shooters, is of course it's evolutionary, kind of like what people are still interested in, but it's outdated, right? But there is also other things that you can still learn today, and that I think are actually still valid and can give you meaning and help us. And I think this stuff is just getting together and doing things together, and that is the important thing, right? So it's about multiplayer games. So it's about sharing memories and emotion with families and friends, and doing something together so that you basically have a shared memory and you can do something. I think that's just already enough if you look at what kind of skills you can acquire. And so for me, VR is definitely the most immersive media. So it is, I think, I would say it's the ultimate medium for fun and learning, right? So, I hope we can all agree on that. And so if you look at basically everything that's been there before, from radio to TV, so now, we can fully immerse us in these worlds, and where else can we have more fun and have more learning than in fully immersive worlds? Because you can do anything, you can be anything, you can learn anything, and you can have fun if done right? And I think we're just at the start of the journey. And 2 years ago, I said, I think we're only at 1% of this journey. I think maybe today we're at 2%. I'm pretty happy about that, and I think we all agree that it is great that we can see this whole industry grow over time. And so one little thing, so if you want to have some fun, so tonight we have a party in our place. I think it's kind of booked out. I think we opened a few more slots on the Eventbrite thing just earlier. So if you want to come, please join us tonight in our office here in Munich. And that's it basically from my side. Thank you very much.